Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. This is your host, real_G Warner, on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter. Feel free to slide in some DMs on any of those platforms if you want to get in touch with me. And also check out my Patreon, patreon.com. So real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my picks across all sports in one place as I lock them in, as I do write-ups, all the things throughout the day. I can assure you, if you want to follow me, that's the best place to do it. But of course, I love Twitter followers, Instagram followers, and things of that nature. So if you want to do that, please do. We're going to, if I don't choke to death, we're going to go through top 5 European soccer leagues, or at least 5 of the top 6, find some bets for this weekend. And then I will put an ultimate best bet up at the end of the show. I'll also cut it and put it on Instagram at some point. So if you want to get the quick and dirty of my top favorite picks from each of the leagues and then just get it that way, that's one way to do it, at the real_G Warner on Instagram. But we might as well get into it. All lines quoted here are courtesy of betonline.ag. There's a 50% bonus for first-time depositors link in my podcast description. So highly recommend you follow that, because I think I get a little bit of money and you get 50% of the casino's money to bolster your deposit and hopefully make a bunch more money off of them with their own money and their own funds. What's better than that? So let's get right into it. It is Friday, December 1st, at least for a little while here in the United States, but we're closing in on Saturday, December 2nd, a big day in the Texas Longhorns history. Hopefully a good day and not a bad one. So let's start in the English Premier League, where we have a million matches. It seems like they just don't play Fridays anymore, which, I guess if we could all not work Fridays, maybe that's the way to do it. But the first matchup we'll go to with the big windows. There's no early match, which is actually kind of nice. But Burnley are hosting Sheffield United. Currently, Burnley a 3/4 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Sheffield United right now over under is 2.25 and is juiced to over. Two clubs that just came up from the championship division. Neither are very good. Sheffield United look worse, but Burnley might be just as bad. So that makes me interested in Sheffield United getting 3/4 of a goal, because you have to beat me by 2 goals to take my full risk. With that said, I think I'm more interested in under, especially getting odds right now, and potentially on 2.25 could get to 2.5 before this kicks off. Sheffield United their goalkeeper made a huge mistake last weekend. You'd think that that's unlikely to happen and repeat itself. But what I've found with goalkeepers in general in soccer, no matter if you're the best in the world, you just want to have nothing to do. Because when you have to do stuff, mistakes happen. And certainly the lower tier keepers have the biggest trouble when they have to play with their feet or try to distribute. Honestly, the Sheffield United goalkeeper had been pretty good till the last weekend, when he made one of the worst, most calamitous mistakes possible at the end of the first half. Could have just kicked the ball out of bounds and they would have gone to the locker room instead. It was, I think, from 1-0 to 2-0, and that was the death blow. I'm interested in under here. Burnley's going to play wide open game, which is not a good thing for them against real Premier League teams. Against Sheffield United, though, I can't call them one. And it worked really well. Burnley were great in the championship last year. So this is probably a spot Burnley can do well. So maybe I'm talking myself a little bit out of that 3/4 of a goal. But I think Sheffield United are going to go on the road and try to keep this as low scoring as possible. So I'm a little bit more interested in under 2.25. Next, go to Brentford hosting Luton Town. Currently, Brentford a 1-goal favorite with more of the juice, almost all of it. Over under is 2.75. Just a little bit to under. Luton Town, another of the newly promoted, I guess, getting them all out of the way right in the early window. Brentford have been so, I would say, this year, up and down, inconsistent. Have scored more goals than I think I expected, but then also have had some pretty poor performances that saw them really make a lot of defensive mistakes late in games. Kai Havertz, of all people, winning the last match against Arsenal after it looked like it was destined for a goalless draw, and a huge result for Brentford. Unfortunately, didn't work out, and they are, I'm sure, motivated to then go put a hammer down on Luton Town. From a Luton perspective, I've backed their unders a lot this season. Feels like every time they go over, it's miraculous, because they're usually not contributing much on the scoreboard. It's a little bit weird for Brentford here, because they're usually the counterattacking, smaller budget side, but they're not here. Luton Town, I think, is one of the smallest clubs to ever get into the English Premier League. I'm sure those owners made a killing and probably want to sell their team as soon as possible before they get relegated. But I think with that said, Luton Town, a total near 3 is just gigantic. So under 2 3/4 is my interest there. Next, go to Arsenal hosting Wolves. Probably will be a ridiculous penalty conceded at the end of the match in stoppage time, as that seems to be what happens to Gary O'Neill, and also for Wolves, as at least happened to twice this season, and I've lost bets on both of them. Hope that won't happen, but Arsenal are 1 3/4 goal favorite, so it's unlikely that will matter, but you never know. Certainly, Arsenal will be pushing for goals. Up 1 goal, up 7 goals. You never really know. Especially after killing Wolves in midweek after a really great start that was calamitous from Wolves defense, but also I think some really good fortune. I don't know that Arsenal is going to continue to score 6 goals a match, because really they've been struggling to score any against low blocks. I expect Wolves to play that sort of way. They've got some big center backs, so that's, I think, good for aerial challenges and to potentially cause some problems there. My biggest issue is with Wolves scoring, and I don't know that they will. So that makes me less interested in backing that 1 3/4 that they're getting with all the juice right now. Instead, I'm more interested in that under 2 3/4, though it is very juiced to over. So we might get a 3 before this kicks off. I'll be waiting to see that, because I'm not going to shy away from an Arsenal demolition in midweek, essentially, but did not feel nice, and I'm trying to avoid those type of losses going forward. Nottingham Forest then host Everton in a later window. It's currently a pick'em with all the juice in Everton on the road. Over unders 2 1/4, juiced all the way to over. Everton's an interesting case right now, considering they had 10 points deducted from them, and they had everyone in the stands with their Premier League corrupt whatever hashtags. I'm not really sure that's doing anything, and 10 points have been decided. So really all you can do or should do is support the club. I feel like the English Premier League market bought into Everton last weekend, closing them a favorite at home to Manchester United, and that did not go well, nor did hitting the under either. Think a bad penalty late, but and now they go on the road and they're a favorite to a really good home team that stayed in the league last season because Nottingham Forest were able to get enough points at home to do it. They're a little bit more expansive at home, still, I think, a counterattacking side in general. And I just don't know that Everton are really worthy of being a road favorite against anybody. They got a lot of pressure on them now after losing 10 points. If that stands up, who knows, with courts and challenges and all that sort of stuff. For violating some financial stuff, because I feel like Juventus got that same penalty and then it got taken away and given back like 4 times last season. But I'm very interested in Nottingham Forest getting that hopefully a 1/4 goal before the kicks off, but currently a pick'em. And I guess I lean to under 2 1/4, though I'd like to see that hit 2.5 also. So kind of hoping that some money comes in on over and Everton to give us a little bit better of pricing. And I got to say, Everton unders have not been a success for me this season like they were as soon as Sean Dyche took over. And the nightcap on Saturday in looks like the north of England, Newcastle United hosts Manchester United. Currently Newcastle a 1/2 goal favorite at home. More juice on Manchester United on the road. Over unders 2 3/4, juiced fair amount, juiced a lot to over 2 3/4. I don't really understand where that comes from. Newcastle played midweek, as did Manchester United. Far more goals for Manchester United on the road in Turkey, and their draw with Galatasaray after leading 2-0 and 3-1. Manchester United is a disaster, and Newcastle certainly can score a lot of goals at home. They've done none of that on the road, essentially. But I'm not really a believer in Newcastle and their offense. I haven't been for a long time. They've been dealing with a ton of injuries, as everyone are at this point in the season, but especially if you're playing in those European competitions midweek. Manchester United are a shell of their team, but have been on a good run. I do wonder how their Galatasaray experience, how that impacts them. But my biggest interest here, I think, is instead of backing Manchester United, it's instead backing the under. Is a little bit of a version of backing Manchester United, because I think their defense is solid, at least against a Newcastle front that isn't that intimidating to me. The crowd is, and Newcastle plays so much better at home, have way more energy, score a lot more than I think they deserve. But 2 3/4 goals for 2 quality top of the table type Champions League defenses should make this more difficult. Next, go to Sunday, and Chelsea hosts Brighton. Currently Chelsea a 3/4 goal favorite with a little bit more juice on Brighton on the road. Over under is 3, just a little bit more to under. I don't know where these Chelsea favorite lines come from. It's been going on for a year now. And they've been one of the worst teams in the Premier League. Not a believer. I don't think their lineup is good. I don't think they play like a team. I don't think they have any clue what they're doing in the player recruitment spots. They just splash money like stupid Americans, certainly not helping the Ted Lasso reputation. And Brighton have been really solid. They played midweek against AEK Athens in Greece, which is not great. That's a long travel, at least across Europe, considering I feel like American travel is so much significantly worse, but they complain about it a lot, surely, in Europe. But my biggest interest here is betting against Chelsea to win this match. So Brighton getting 3/4 of a goal, that's my interest. I don't think I'm playing unders with Brighton because they just don't really want to do anything but attack. And that does certainly put an underdog at risk. Certainly Chelsea play better at home. But I think they have to prove that they're a team that can win matches before I start being afraid of taking a single goal loss and only losing half my risk. Bournemouth then hosts Aston Villa. Currently Bournemouth a half a goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over unders 3, juice a little bit to under. Bournemouth have been on a roll lately, but how much is that deserved? How much is it from playing Newcastle, who were starting a left winger at striker that had no clue or plan to score goals right before the international break, or that they were gifted a goal from an awful goalkeeping mistake from a generally good goalkeeper on a newly promoted? So Bournemouth have been fortunate. Aston Villa have been fortunate with so many offside goals from Youngmin's son. I think had an offside hat trick last weekend. But I'm not really sure that Aston Villa are a side I want to back anywhere but home, and they're probably going to be favorites in their home venue a lot this season, almost every match, unless they're facing one of the top tier clubs. So I'm interested in Bournemouth at home. I don't really want to buy into their performance lately, but it's better than buying into a road favorite, which I don't do. I'm allergic to. And I think under 3 is of interest as well, because I feel like Aston Villa do a lot better job scoring at home. They're like a Newcastle light, score a lot at home, don't really do much on the road. They do play a very high line, which worries me, but I expect Bournemouth to go in Andoni Iraola style, like he did at Rayo Vallecano, sit back, try to counter, and I think that will be difficult to catch Aston Villa out in that sort of way. It does make me like them as an underdog less at home, but I do think the home crowd is going to be very supportive and important. West Ham then hosts Crystal Palace, currently West Ham a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Crystal Palace on the road. Over under is 2.25, juiced all the way to over. When I see Crystal Palace matches, I want to go under. It's pretty much how it goes, though they certainly make a lot of mistakes and are not perfect. I don't believe in their offense, though. So that's my interest here. West Ham have really not defended well this season, though. So that's a major problem. At some point, I'm just going to have to realize that they are going to score a lot of goals and ship goals at the other side as well, even though they have a defensive manager and a defensive setup and all that sort of stuff. It just hasn't seemed to work. Declan Rice clearly was doing so much work defensively that doesn't seem to be happening without him anymore. I think under 2.25 is my interest there, though I wanted to see this hit 2.5. And even then, it might be one that I finally leave off my card because I'm sick of losing unders. Liverpool then knows Fulham. Liverpool currently a 1.75 goal favorite with a little bit more of the juice. Over unders 3.25, juice all the way to over. Gigantic total for Fulham, who I can't score goals except they got 2 penalties on a Monday night match, and that's how they won their last one. If I didn't already mention the Wolves always giving up penalties late in matches, or the Gary O'Neill effect, put them all together and it will happen more and more. Fulham are not an offense I'm afraid of or believe in. I really did trust their defense a fair amount previously. I'm not sure I feel that same way now, but above 3, it's really hard for me not to like it under. Liverpool certainly can score a ton, but they've been distracted by all these matches they play in Europe. I think Alisson's going to miss this match, though, which does mean that there's going to be less bailouts from the back, which is pretty important because that's what Liverpool seem to survive on. But the total's big, so I'll put 3.25 on my list, under 3.25 at Anfield. And last but not least, Manchester City hosts Tottenham. Currently, Man City a 1.75 goal favorite, a little bit more juice. Over unders 3.5, juiced all the way to over. Tottenham looked like they're going to play aggressively no matter what, no matter who their players are. Ange ball is on at all times. So hard for me to want to play under. Tottenham, until they show a clean bill of health or something like that, I think they're really going to the Lions' den as a freshly cooked piece of meat or whatever we call it. I don't know. It looks like they are walking around in a very, very dangerous on thin ice. And I don't really want to talk about it more because I don't think there's anywhere I want to go. So our best bet for England as I move on to Spain, and I'll collect 5 of these at the end for an ultimate best bet. I'm going to go with Brighton Hove Albion, a 3/4 goal underdog on the road at Chelsea. Of course, hoping for a +1, but don't think I'll need it. Okay, moving to La Liga, we have Saturday match, Girona hosting Valencia. Currently, Girona a 3/4 goal favorite. with a little bit more juice at home. Over unders 2.5, juice all the way to over. Valencia are a young side that have a lot of promise and talent, but they've got a long way to go. So I don't really want to back them, even though I'm kind of in a position I want to sell Girona. I don't think Valencia's defense is really their strong calling card. I think they're ultimately a side I want to play as an underdog on the road. When I expect that they can beat a team. I don't think that they're going to beat Girona. I'm a believer in Girona being a lot better than I think most of the Spanish media at this point. Being in the Man City group certainly helps, but we'll see eventual crash back to potentially fighting for Europa League or maybe even Champions League later in the season. Really, I think it depends on how the teams around them perform, but they've been great so far, have deserved a lot of their performances. They've done some great signings, and I don't think Valencia are on that same level. Athletic Club then hosts Rayo Vallecano, currently a 1-goal favorite at home at San Mamés. Over under is 2.75, juice almost all the way to under, with almost all the juice to -1 at Athletic Club at home. Rayo, as I mentioned, with Andoni Iraola, they do the same type of strategy, sit back, counter. And I like that defensively, especially against Athletic Club, who are installed as a big favorite. It's not been as profitable going under and underdog on the road at San Mamés because Athletic Club have found some more goal scoring. Nico Williams has developed on the wing. His brother Iñaki is always incredible and has been finishing a lot better, maybe because his passes have been better or something like that. I think he's just been on a good run. And certainly I'm not sure that it'll continue because I don't think at 28 or 29 years old, you suddenly start to put the ball in the net when you couldn't for the earlier parts of your career. But Rayo are going to defend here. I like that full goal of insurance. And I also like under 2.75 because that's a giant total for Athletic Club. Real Madrid then hosts Granada. Perfect. I can finally avoid a Real Madrid under because some of those beats are really frustrating. But Real Madrid, a 2.25 goal favorite right now, with Granada searching for a new manager. Maybe they have one in place, but I'm not expecting a lot. They held on to Paco Lopez for so long. I thought he was going to maybe stay the whole season. Over unders 3.5 here, juiced over. I probably lean over if anything, but I'm not that type of player, not that type of guy. Moving to the nightcap on Saturday, Osasuna hosts Real Sociedad. Currently, Osasuna a 1/4 goal underdog at home, and the total is 2, which is extremely low for Real Sociedad match. I've been playing a lot of unders with them. It's amazing that their Sevilla match at home last weekend went over. But I think it was an outside the box worldy, and one was an own goal and one was another, could have been an own goal with deflection. There might have been 2. One off a keeper, one off a defender. Incredible that was 3 goals. But Osasuna on the other side have not really had a good season at all this year. They were controlling a game against Villarreal and then gave up 2 counterattacking goals and then a hat trick to a 36-year-old out of form Jose Luis Morales, El Comandante. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. For watching on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, I'm sorry, you probably just wanted to listen, but I do video on there as well. Any 5-star reviews I will read, or if you do them for the other podcasts on the channel, I will certainly bring those in. I didn't expect to go on a commercial monologue there, but we're back to Spain. Osasuna are not a team I want to back right now at El Sadar. Real Sociedad rotated and were successful in getting a result, though I think probably disappointed that they didn't get a win at home. Still tied for the lead in their group in Champions League, and they get to have it all come down to their trip to Inter for that last match day. Total's too low, so not much for me to do there. Next, we'll go to Mallorca hosting Alaves. Currently, Mallorca a 1/4 goal favorite coming off that midweek match, which they usually rotate for incredible amounts. I don't know why they played a midweek, but I think they did. Mallorca a 1/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice on Alaves, who've been playing a lot better, but still newly promoted, and it feels like they're getting a lot of respect on the road. Over under here is 1.75, is juiced all the way to over. But I want that push on 2, and I don't have it yet. So this one feels like I guess I lean to Alaves getting that 1/4 goal because I don't believe in Mallorca. They've been struggling with injuries, missing their important striker who does everything for them and doesn't really have an assist man because Lee Kang-in left for Paris Saint-Germain in the summer. But Alaves are getting a strong line here, and I've kind of learned in my soccer betting that you trust the strong lines on slight underdogs that you expect to be a lot bigger. I think that's more of a commentary on Mallorca, but also could be an endorsement on how Alaves have been playing. Almeria then hosts Betis. Almeria, I think, bottom of the table, really have not done anything well this season, but they're only a 1/4 goal underdog at home to Real Betis, a big all the juice on the Betis side. Maybe this climbs to a half of a goal, but Real Betis have not been good. They've not been scoring goals. They're playing in Europe, and they did rotate a fair amount, but they did play some of their better players. I would call them more like their second stringers, but started some good players, the Nabil Fakirs of the world, who they're trying to get back into his form after a bad knee injury. Total here is 2 3/4, just a little bit to under. Almeria are going to try to cover up a defense that's been really bad all season. 2 3/4 is a giant total for Real Betis match. So I like under there. I don't think I really want to back the home dog as much, but it does kind of feel like a little bit of backing the home dog if I'm playing under. So Almeria, I'll go under 2 3/4 as my lean in that one. Next we'll go to Sevilla hosting Villarreal. Sevilla coming off a ridiculous 2-0 lead and then losing at home to one of the Dutch clubs, either Feyenoord or PSV Eindhoven. I think it was PSV. Currently Sevilla, half a goal favorite to Villarreal, who also played in Europe, but later in the week. Over under is 3 and is juiced all the way to under. I don't know where 3 goals are coming from. Villarreal scored a lot last weekend, but their new manager is a lot more conservative. Marcelino, who was at Marseille earlier this year and also was at Athletic Club and is a conservative guy. Villarreal have not been conservative, been attacking only for a while, but I don't really know what the idea is for Sevilla because Sergio Ramos and Jesus Navas are suspended for red cards at the end of the last match, unless those got rescinded. But I don't think Ramos would have certainly a persistent offender. Who knows? I feel like the left back, right back, whatever. Jose Navas basically says the magic word to the linesman or side official, and then got the heave at the end of the Sociedad match. Anyway, Villarreal get to potentially cause some problems, but I think they're going to play defensively. So I like under 3 more than anything, but I do like, I guess, that half of a goal, depending on what type of lineup we get to see, because there's good chance that since both are playing in Europe that we might have something going haywire, and the totals and the sides are a little bit bigger, though it's a ton of juice on Villarreal right now and a lot of juice on the under. So it might be one of those we want to grab sooner rather than later. Last but not least, Barcelona hosts Atletico Madrid in the Sunday night edition, big match day and the real spectacle in Spain. Barca, half a goal favorite at home, all the juice on Atleti on the road. Over is 2 3/4, juiced pretty heavily to under. I want to back Atleti here. I feel like they were on a really good run last season at Barcelona and got completely screwed by refereeing. Welcome to La Liga, I guess. Welcome to the Fog Allen Fieldhouse. If you watched Connecticut and Kansas in college basketball tonight, oh my God, 5 versus 8 playing against the referees. Here's only one additional player, the referee that goes for Barcelona, especially with all the payments that were being made in the past. But I guess no one wants to talk about that anymore. Anyway, I like Atleti getting a half of a goal. I think they've been playing really well. Barcelona have not. I like under 2 3/4 because I think Atleti will still go into Barcelona and try to be conservative and try to respect a Barcelona team that I don't think really deserves it. I thought Barca were pretty good in their Champions League match against Porto, but big difference in skill there. Atleti got a good win. Seemed very fortunate to me. I think that was at Feyenoord. So that's a little bit of a rest advantage, but I think Atleti played, maybe they both played on Tuesday. I'm not sure. I need to look into that a little bit more, but would expect Atleti to have the best lineup out there. We know if Atleti take a lead, they're going to sit on it and try to kill the game, especially away from home. I think they're going to force Barcelona to kind of cut, poke, prod, get in and try to find some good, efficient scoring. And I don't believe that they'll do it because they haven't for a long time now. Last but not least, we go to Monday. Celta de Vigo hosting Cadiz. Currently, Celta, a 1-goal favorite at home with all the juice on Cadiz on the road. It's a giant spread. Over-unders 2.5, juice very heavily to under. 2 very big under teams here. Cadiz, who had to play midweek, not a great sign, but I like +1. I like under 2.5 as well. I don't really know where those type of numbers come from at this point, but two teams that really can't score goals efficiently. Celta de Vigo, they are a disaster, really. I mean, they've I guess been playing competitively, but I don't think things are going to go well for them. So I'm actually going to go with under 2.5 in La Liga for my La Liga best bet. That Cadiz under 2.5 on Monday night of, I guess it'd be the 4th of December. Moving now to Serie A in Italy. We have Genoa hosting Empoli on Saturday morning here in the United States. Genoa, a half a goal favorite with almost all the juice on Empoli on the road. Over there's 2.25 juiced to over. Genoa have scored really well, but have been missing Albert Gudmundsson, their Icelandic pariah. I don't know if that's the right word. Superstar, talisman. I mean, he's too young for that, probably. They've been dealing a lot of injuries up front, and that's kind of stunted the growth of their offense. Empoli, I think, are going to go in and try to defend like crazy. They got Caputo, who's potentially going to bail them out and keep them in the league, maybe. I don't really trust their defense enough, but Genoa have been missing a lot of players. So I think my only interest here is to that Empoli under 2.25. Next we'll go to Lazio hosting Cagliari. Lazio, who never score any goals and really struggled a ton with Celtic, who've been a disaster in Europe for years now and are eliminated from European competition thanks to Lazio from this week. But Lazio hosts Cagliari, newly promoted side, who are going to go and try to defend. Lazio currently a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. I'm hoping this climbs to 1 because I'm very interested in being against Lazio and really interested in just being against Lazio scoring goals. Over there's 2.5 here, just to under. There's been some debate on who's the striker now for Lazio, potentially switching from Ciro Immobile to Tati Castellanos, who had some big outputs in La Liga last season. But it's always hard to dethrone the captain. But Ciro might start this one because he came off the bench and got their 2 goals, or was responsible for them, or was big in the activity surrounding the goals. I'm back to not believing Lazio are going to go over for a long time. I think +1 would be really nice to have if we get it. We don't have it yet, but I'll be looking for that on Cagliari. And honestly, at 3/4 of a goal, even money, I kind of like that at this point too. Last but not least, the Saturday night cup. AC Milan hosts Frosinone, coming off their disappointing performance in Champions League. Milan, a 1.25 goal favorite with almost all the juice on the road team. Frosinone, over unders 2.75, juice a little bit to over. Frosinone is my interest here. They have not really been as competitive. They were a really good bet early this season. I'm not sure I've felt the same way about them, and I've been against them a little bit actually as well. But Milan are struggling so much with injuries. Rafael Leao, who's so important to them in creating goals, and then Giroud missing a penalty early in their match in the Champions League midweek. Frosinone, meanwhile, resting on their laurels, practicing some set pieces or whatever the heck. I think puts them in a good position, getting more than a goal on the road at San Siro. I was very unimpressed by the Milan crowd this October when I went. Way cooler Inter. That stuff was awesome. Milan, no crowd effect whatsoever. Juventus crowd behind me just going nuts the whole time. Honestly, we're carrying the whole stadium. And I do think that matters. I think that makes it less intimidating for Frosinone. They go there expecting it to be bad and then be like, wait, why is no one yelling at us? We'll see how that goes. But over under 2.75, I don't see Milan scoring a bunch here. Frosinone might be able to get 1, and that would certainly help that the side at getting 1.25 goals would force Milan to get 3. I don't think that's likely. I think a 2-1 here is fairly possible, but might be the maximum, and you get half your risk back. I think Frosinone can go in and really frustrate Milan, who are a much weaker offense at this point, with their injuries, illnesses, out of form players, et cetera, and they were kind of surviving off of Christian Pulisic earlier in the season. And I think we all know, anyone that watches American football that has been rooting for him for a while, it's just not going to continue. Let's go to Lecce hosting Bologna. This is on Sunday. Lecce, a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.25, juiced very heavily to under. So clearly not a lot of expectation for goals here, with a very juice home dog and a total at 2.25 that might fall to 2. Bologna were fortunate to get away with a goal they conceded, a wonder goal that was called offside in their last match with Torino. Got 2, I think you'd call them mistake goals. Keeper came out, the backup keeper for Torino, because their other one had been away with Serbia. It seems like there's a lot of big mistakes by keepers that were rotated in backups because the main guy was international playing somewhere in the international break. You'd think that was something you would not do, but here we are. Lecce at home are interesting, though they have really struggled to close matches of late. Their back and forth match with Verona on Monday certainly is a little bit less rest time, but I guess it was before Bologna played, so that's not so bad. I like them at home. I think they're really stubborn. I want them to get more than 1/4 goal, but I feel like that's probably the maximum we'll see. Might close at Pick'em, and I don't know if I want to get involved there. But I do like under 2.25 because I just don't really believe in either of these offenses, though it's very juiced at the moment. Fiorentina then hosts Salernitana coming off their rotated side in the Conference League. Fiorentina 1.25 goal favorite at home. Over under is 2.75. Juice very heavily to over, and there's a fair amount of juice on Salernitana on the road as well. Salernitana have been a lot better lately. They've improved. They had that huge upset of Lazio. But they're going to Fiorentina. They're going to be a worse club here, and they're going to try to defend with some weaker defenders. They're going to try to score. They don't have a lot. Really heavily reliant on Candreva, their 36-year-old, or just trying to find counterattacks or some wonder goals, which have happened a little bit, or big mistakes, which Fiorentina are not certainly out of the woods for. But Fiorentina, to me, they have a pretty deep squad now. They basically play center backs based on if they want to deal with a tall striker or not. Salernitana don't really have anything there. I do wonder the status of Boulaïdia, the star striker for Salernitana, who's been all over the place this year because he was trying to force a move to Wolverhampton, which didn't happen, and then all this weird stuff. But I'm pretty interested in fading Fiorentina. I think here it would be to the under 2.75. It's a pretty high total for Salernitana, who might get shut out here, might keep a clean sheet. Fiorentina might at home. And I just don't really ever believe in Fiorentina to score a bunch of goals. So I lean to that one. I think the under 2.75 more than the 1.25 spread on Salernitana, because I think you'd rather hope that Salernitana lose 2-0 and win your under rather than hope that they try to score. Because if they're down 2-0, I think they're going to have real trouble scoring that last goal to send it over, and they wouldn't cover on the side. Udinese then hosts Verona. Currently, Udinese a 3/4 goal favorite, which is gigantic for this team, considering how badly they were playing for the last year or so. Sacked their manager, have improved a little bit. Maybe it was fortunes, maybe it was luck. Verona on the other side can't win. I guess they did. They can't win, and on the road, a 3/4 goal underdog, you don't have to win, but you're expecting a lot for Verona to draw. I think my biggest interest is going against these two offenses, so under 2.25 is my lean here. I just don't know where goals come from Udinese. They're a bigger favorite than they should be, and that's a way to get paid in case they do find a goal or two, while Verona, I don't think, will do much. Sassuolo then hosts Roma, a good spot for Sassuolo to catch Roma off Europa League. Sassuolo, a 0.5 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.75, juice almost all the way to under. 2.75 is a big total for a Roma match. We've seen some really low ones this season. They're eventually going to find a way to get Dybala and Lukaku together on the pitch at the same time for a bunch of games, and it'll probably matter. It might be later in the season as they run to a Europa League to try to find their way into Champions League that way, and backdoor by winning that competition. We'll see. Sassuolo have been pretty good. I don't usually trust them as any sort of under team, but feels like a big total. I think it's going to be a competitive match. I probably like Sassuolo getting a 0.5 goal more than under 2.75, but it's a lot bigger than we've been seeing with Roma, so I lean under there. Surprise, surprise. The nightcap on Sunday, Napoli hosts Inter Milan. Currently, Napoli a 1/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.75, juice all the way to under. There's not a lot that I want to do with this one. Inter are a way better club. Napoli surrendered, kind of choked up a Real Madrid match with their best squad out there. Inter rotated and basically played completely second strings. We're down 3-0, I think, in the first half, and ended up getting a 3-3 draw, and nearly, I think, could have won the match 4-3. I don't really, the Napoli crowd, when I saw them for Milan, I would assume it's not that different in anticipation for Inter Milan coming in. But I wasn't that impressed. I don't believe in this new Napoli manager. They've been scoring more goals than I would expect, but I expect that to come to a screeching halt pretty soon. For now, I don't think there's any for me in that Sunday nightcap in Italia, in southern Italy specifically. And last but not least, on Monday, we go Torino hosting Atalanta. Currently, Torino a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.25, juice pretty heavily to under. Atalanta had a big match with Sporting Clube de Portugal this week. Torino had played on Monday, Atalanta on Thursday. So a huge rest advantage for Torino. I don't really want to play unders with Atalanta. They are go forth and try to score goals type of squad. Torino, I thought, deserved better than a 2-0 loss. It was certainly a much closer match than that would have been, especially if that first goal had counted. So I like Torino getting a 1/4 goal at home, especially Atalanta. Question how much they have in their legs, because you never really know what they're going to look like coming off a European voyage, whether it's at home in Italy, in the northern Italia, and then they're going to Torino, which is not too far. So maybe that's a little bit easier for travel, but still not the best that you can look for. For my best bet in Italy, we got 2 more leagues left, and I'll do an ultimate best bet end of show. I'm going to go with that Cagliari under 2.5 goals against Lazio on Saturday. So now we'll go to the Bundesliga, which I had a really good weekend in last weekend. Finally, some unders hit. I think I went like 5-1 or something like that, trying to keep that going because it's been kind of a dangerous spot for me. I had great success in the Bundesliga in the past, but it was not a great start to this year. We'll start on Saturday morning with Bayern Munich hosting Union Berlin. Bayern, a 2.25 goal favorite. Almost all the juice on Union on the road. That's been jockeying between 2.25 and 2.5. Over unders 3.5. Juice to under. Bayern are just gonna wax this team. Union's gonna try to defend. It's not been going well for them. They played a pretty tight match with Braga on the road in Champions League midweek, but also were up a man and still defending for their lives. This squad is excuse my French, fucked. And I don't really understand who this man they hired was. Yes, I do love Luis Fischer. I love him forever. He's made me so much money and kept me afloat really in my learning how to bet soccer over the years. But things turned, but I still think he's the best guy to take them out of the relegation fight. This is not going to be a good spot for them. So I think I've already talked enough about it. Moving next to Borussia Mönchengladbach hosting TSG Hoffenheim. Currently Gladbach a 1/4 goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Over is 3.5. Juice pretty heavily to under. Gladbach had a weird performance against Dortmund. Took a 2-0 lead and then basically fell apart. And a lot of their players after the match were talking about it. I think it was the guy that was on loan from Leeds, maybe Volba, who was talking afterwards in English, thankfully, because I don't speak German at all, besides counting maybe eins, zwei, drei. But vier, fünf. Anyway, that's 5. There we go. I'm kind of surprised to see Gladbach such a favorite. Hoffenheim's defense was all over the place against Mainz on their Sunday match, but they've been a terrible home team, and now they're I think they've lost 5 of their 7 matches, and it was 5 or it's a bad home record for Hoffenheim, but they've been great on the road and are like hanging around European places despite getting no points at home. I don't think anyone sees that coming or expect that to continue. It should revert to the mean a little bit, but I think Hoffenheim's good road performances does show that they can be a good team. And Gladbach are all over the place, are trying to figure out what to do with themselves as they're trying to rebuild. I don't think it's going very well. They do have some good players, but ultimately I'm looking to be against them. Yes, the crowd will probably be helpful for them at home. They did smash Wolfsburg a couple weeks ago, much to my chagrin, but I like Hoffenheim getting that 1/4 goal because I think they're going to play a competitive match and might even win on the road, especially with Kramaric back in the lineup. I think that's very important. I don't want to play an under. I think I'm all set with picking my spots in the Bundesliga for unders, though I feel like a lot of them are deserved to come down the stretch before this Christmas break. But the amount of goals that are scored above XG accounts is incredible. Leipzig then hosts Heidenheim, coming off one of the most crestfalling and completely feeling rigged decision. The fact that Ruben Pena, or whatever his name is, what is it? Ruben Diaz. There we go. The fact that he stayed on the pitch with what should have been a red card, I thought, at least a second yellow, and it essentially charted the path. It blocked, it cleared the path, it charted the course for Manchester City to come back at home. I mean, just officiating is disgusting across all sports. Unfortunately, they are incredibly favoritive of they favor the home team so much. I mean, talk about the Kansas game tonight against Connecticut as well. Anyway, Leipzig, a great home team, probably don't even need that incredible home field advantage that the referees give. But they're hosting Heidenheim, a 1.75 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over unders 3.5, juice very heavily to under. I don't really want to have anything to do with this one. I think Leipzig are in a prime sleepy spot, as some might call it, to potentially struggle. Heidenheim, newly promoted, have had some good success on the road as big underdogs, though ultimately I think they're going to try to keep this as low scoring as possible. For that reason, I mean, Leipzig are great because they're so deep and they're able to rotate, but it hasn't been great so far this season. They've had some struggles, a goalless draw at home with Bochum. The more I talk about it, the more I'm interested in Heidenheim under 3.5, just because it's a gigantic number for a Leipzig team that might be completely dead after being potentially, I think they had lost 7-0 on the road at Manchester City, which doesn't happen to great clubs like Leipzig who dominate in Germany. Then they were up 2-0 on Man City on the road. Potentially we're going to get back in the race to win the Champions League group, and then lost 3-2, and we're holding on for dear life, to say the least. I think Heidenheim under 3.5 is interesting, just to see what type of lineup Leipzig puts out there. It should be pretty strong, I'm sure. And at home, they should be better, but they still need to probably score 4 goals themselves. Bochum then hosts Wolfsburg. Calling Bochum a pick 'em, but all the juice on the home team right now, which is surprising. They never get any respect. Over unders 2 3/4, juice the over very heavily. Wolfsburg have been really confusing. I guess they've had better home results, have had some really awful road results, like that Mönchengladbach loss, I think 4-0 on a Friday night. They got a big win against Leipzig, speaking of, last weekend, which speaks to Leipzig's road struggles. But now Wolfsburg are really going to struggle going into Bochum. I think it's going to be a really tough environment for them. But I also don't see Bochum scoring many goals here. I want to back Bochum, but I pick them minus all the juice, potentially climbing to a quarter goal favorite. That's where things get a little bit out of hand. I don't know if that then makes me like Wolfsburg there, but I do like the under 2 3/4, so I'll put that on my list. The nightcap, the top spiel, the big matchup on Saturday. VfB Stuttgart hosting Werder Bremen. Currently Stuttgart a 1 1/4 goal favorite with all the juice over unders 3 1/4, juice pretty heavily to under. Stuttgart have been awesome. I think I'm all set with trying to fade them. They look great. Sebastian Hoeneß has found a spot. Their young players have finally gotten to a point where they're competent, and they look really scary. Werder Bremen are going to get destroyed, but I don't know. I mean, destroyed on the pitch potentially. I don't know if it'll show up on the scoreboard like that. I guess if anything, I like under 3 1/4, because I don't think Werder Bremen are going to score much. The problem is you have to then back their defense, and I don't think I want to do that. I don't really know what to do with Werder Bremen other than want to be against them, and they're a big underdog here, so I don't think that's possible. Moving to Sunday, Mainz hosts Freiburg. Currently, Mainz a quarter goal favorite, hosting Freiburg, who just completely destroy their Europa League opponents and then cannot score any goals at home or anywhere in the Bundesliga. For that reason, Mainz are a favorite, though all the juice on Freiburg on the road. Over under is 2.5, and it's just a little bit to under. I think Mainz, I mean, they probably should have won at Hoffenheim last weekend. I don't know how that translates to how they'll play this weekend. Freiburg coming off a home match to Olympiacos that they're up 3-0 in the first half of the Mikel Gregoritsch hat trick, which, I mean, yes, he's a striker, so it should have been expected that he'd be the one to do that, but he's shown nothing for weeks, months, maybe. So I'm going to go back to Freiburg coming back to earth and not scoring many goals, especially on the road. Mainz will be physical, so I like that Freiburg, since they're actually the road underdog, despite being a Europa League side against what was formerly bottom of the Bundesliga. I like under 2.5 there. Bayer Leverkusen then hosts Dortmund on Sunday. Leverkusen a 1 goal favorite, which is gigantic. All the juice on Dortmund on the road. Over under is 3.5, juice a little bit to under. Dortmund, this is, I mean, great matchup, especially for a Sunday. Usually these are reserved for the Saturday night matches, but Leverkusen playing in Europa League does complicate that a fair amount. Anyway, Dortmund, they are talented, of course. They're a good team. They just played at Milan, saved a penalty, and then went on to win a big match, and I think advanced from the group. So they've probably been pretty psyched and are very happy with their performances. I'm not sure they've really deserved much. I mean, falling behind 2-0 at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach is pretty bad. They did get a win, though, so I guess credit them there. Now they got a big test. Leverkusen have been the best team in the Bundesliga so far. I think they're still an underdog to Bayern München to win the Meisterschale, but they'll do their best, of course, as everyone will. But I think they're going to be in this throughout. Dortmund, on the other hand, they are a young team. They've got goal scoring issues, but it doesn't seem to matter too much. Their defense has been really problematic, but doesn't seem to be that problematic now. I don't really know what to say about them, but it's just like one of those things where Dortmund, they are gonna have a lot of people questioning them, and in Champions League it's worked. I don't think it's really worked in the Bundesliga, though they did jump Red Bull Leipzig for that 4th position for the Champions League in Germany, which is crazy that there's even a competition, because it's usually clearly Dortmund, clearly Leipzig, clearly Bayern München, but Stuttgart and Leverkusen are in the play here. I don't there's a point where Leverkusen are going to be really overvalued, overpriced. And I think Dortmund getting a full goal of insurance does interest me. So I'll put that on my list. And I think I like under 3.5 because I think ultimately the Dortmund's success this season has been from their defense surprisingly covering for a pretty weak offense, which is, I mean, coming into the season, I don't think anyone expected that. But they're clearly Dortmund are very flawed. Leverkusen are not necessarily, but getting 4 goals in a match of 2 teams with good offenses that are kind of under, I mean, hard to poke any holes in Leverkusen at this point, but they did have to play. I mean, they probably rotated incredibly for their Europa League match because they've more than won the group by 1,000,000 points, it seemed. But I think it's going to be a tough match, and I think getting 4 goals between 2 of the upper tier teams, there aren't that many shootouts when 2 competent teams play each other. Last but not least, Augsburg hosts Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Augsburg will pick them with a little bit more juice on Eintracht Frankfurt on the road. Over unders 2 3/4, juice all the way to under. This is interesting because Eintracht started the season not scoring goals at all, then found some offense, but they're still playing some guys out of position, and they really made no threats to Stuttgart at home last weekend, despite trailing for almost the entire match. They got an own goal, crazy header that was really perfectly placed if he was an offensive player, Vladimir Anton. But Eintracht Frankfurt, their offense has been struggling. There's a lot of money bet on their under on Thursday, and I tend to agree with it. Augsburg have been playing very aggressively, but have been going under a fair amount with this new manager. Got a draw after conceding an equalizer to Union Berlin on the road last weekend, but stayed under the total. And I think 2 3/4 feels pretty high for an Eintracht Frankfurt team. That's not the same offense on the road. Certainly not the same offense that they were with Cole Mwani in the squad till he forced to move to PSG in this same season. That set their offense off to a really poor start, and then it kind of woke up, but we're kind of in the doldrums again. So I like under there. And it looks like Augsburg a slight underdog at home. They're a good team at home. They play teams very tough. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I think this could be one of those that is very competitive till the end, and I guess we'll see if it stays that way. So for my best bet in the Bundesliga before we get to France and Ligue 1, I'm going to go with, this is tough. I think that Bochum have not been scoring a lot of goals in their matches. They're a little bit more aggressive, come out a little bit more at home than they do on the road. But, I just don't really know if I think I'm just going to go under there as my best bet. So Wolfsburg on the road at Bochum under 2 3/4. Again, it's the under show for the ultimate best bet portion, but we'll get there. Stay with me one more league, and then we'll get to ultimate best bet, and then hopefully I'll get out of here and maybe go to sleep because there's some football to watch tomorrow. A lot of it, various types, different balls. One you can use your hands, when you can't. So for Ligue 1 in France, we'll go to Lens hosting Lyon, who are a surprising bottom of the table, can't win, and I don't think they're going to change. Lens are probably going to be extremely angry after getting absolutely embarrassed at Arsenal. Currently, Lens a 3/4 goal favorite at home with more of the juice over. There's 2 3/4 more of the juice to under. There's nothing I really want to do in this one. I don't trust Lyon. They're going to have to try to find a way to get back into mid-table, it seems. I think Europe is out of the cards for this season. But they're going to fight relegation, it seems. They're probably going to spend a lot of money with another American investor to spend all the money he probably got from his parents or won in the lottery or something stupid. A lot of charlatans out there in this world, it seems. But Lens have a great home crowd. I think it'll bring them back up, and it'll restore any sort of confidence they might have lost in London. Nantes then hosts Nice in the nightcap on Saturday. Nantes a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice over unders 2 1/4. Juice to under. I feel like 2 1/4 is a lot for a Nantes match. It's also a lot because Nice don't concede goals. So I don't really know that I like the home dog as much, though I expect home teams to certainly have a higher ceiling than they do on the road, especially bad ones. But I question Nice's offense a fair amount, and I think this one stays under. So I'll go not under 2 1/4 goals as my biggest interest in that Saturday night match. Not a top spiel. I don't know the French word anyway. Le Havre then hosts PSG, and what is a newly promoted who have been awesome this year. I've been covering spreads left and right, but this is a big test for them. They are at home for PSG, but PSG come in with, I guess, that late draw from a penalty kick that was fairly controversial, it seemed. But it seemed like a penalty to me. Anyway, Le Havre, I'm going to like at home. Probably I'm going to like them every time they play someone because until they get priced better, and they haven't been. 1.5 underdog is big. I like that push on 3 as well for the total. I don't know that I'll play both because it's really scary to be against PSG in that scenario. But then again, sometimes those are the ways to do it. I think Le Havre, they're pretty defensive last season. One of the broadcasters in English said that they were a high scoring offense that has kind of been very pragmatic and trying to play defense this year. But then I looked at the goal totals and they just hadn't no goals conceded last year and didn't score many themselves. So it seemed like a really defensive side. Wish I had kind of picked up on that earlier in the season and stopped believing these guys and actually checked what these broadcasters say, because a lot of times they have no idea what they're talking about, especially if they don't even know how to pronounce names. But I think Le Havre makes this a tough match. They get the benefit of playing at home, while PSG had a home match with Newcastle in midweek. Not as bad as being at Newcastle, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Monaco then hosts Montpellier. Currently Monaco a 1-goal favorite at home. All the juice on Montpellier on the road. Over under is 3. Juice all the way to over. Monaco have been a really great offense, but sometimes it's hard to trust them. I don't really think they're a bunch of great finishers. Montpellier, I think, had to play midweek, so that's not great for their leg situation going on the road to Monaco. Stade Louis II is not exactly the hardest place to play, but the team in there is pretty good. I don't know that I want to get in the way of Monaco on less rest, unfortunately, because the smaller clubs, the weaker teams, really struggle with that. Toulouse then hosts Lorient in a big relegation fight, despite Toulouse playing in the Europa League, just because they won the automatic bid from winning the Coupe de France last year. Toulouse, a 0.5-goal favorite at home with all the juice on Lorient. On the road, over unders 2.5, juice pretty heavily to under. Lorient are, I think, going to bounce back from a really poor performance in a relegation 6-pointer they had last weekend at home with Metz, with a late penalty kick that lost them the match. Should have probably had a chance to equalize, because for some reason goalies punching guys in the head and missing the ball sometimes is a penalty, but sometimes is not. I don't know how to explain it. That one, I guess, was the right way for me, or worked for me, though I think it should have been a penalty. I know Anthony Lopez definitely got penalized for it when I had Lyon when they were actually relevant a couple seasons ago. But here we are, Lorient, 0.5-goal underdog with all the juice. I like that because I really want to be against Toulouse, who are playing in Europa League, are really a much inferior side than they were last season. Their manager left and they sold off a lot of players, didn't really build any or bring any back in, and they're struggling with 2 competitions and it's killing the team. So that's why they're fighting relegation. I like Lorient getting that 0.5 goal, and I like under 2.5 there as well, because I think I'm just trying to be against the Toulouse home favorite at this point. Stade Brestois then hosts Clermont Foot. Currently Brest a 0.5-goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice all the way to under. Clermont have not been scoring at all. They had to play midweek. That's not good. I guess that was maybe a replay of a match that was forfeited. That should have been a big Montpellier win, if not for a firecracker that went off. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what happened. Stade Brestois have been awesome. They had a good win last weekend. I'm really sad I didn't pull the trigger and play them. One of the few I laid off, I guess. But Clermont, I don't trust to score goals. They had some really bad goalkeeping errors, but ultimately, I think Stade Brestois are still goalkeeping errors for Clermont. But ultimately, Brest are overachievers that probably aren't likely to score a ton of goals. So I like under 2.5 in that one. And I think I'll just have to decide how competitive I think Clermont Foot will be if I want to play that, because Brest are not going to score at this rate that they can have all season. Lille then hosts Metz. Currently, Lille a 1.25 goal favorite. All the juice on Metz on the road. Over unders 2.75, just a little bit to under. Lille are really scary. They're a great offense. They're going to attack the whole time. Metz are not a great offense. If they fall behind, it's going to be really hard for them to keep up. I don't know that for the first time in a while, I don't really want to play Metz here, and I don't want to play unders with Lille. Last but not least, the nightcap, Marseille hosts the Rennes. Currently, Marseille a 0.5 goal favorite coming off Europa League. Rennes, same sort of story, I guess. Marseille currently a 0.5 goal favorite with more juice. Over unders 2.5, juice all the way to over. Rennes are a different team, better on the road, just improved, but they're not as talented, not as dynamic. I do feel like Marseille have been struggling at home and really haven't lived up to their expectations. Pressure is kind of heating up on Gattuso. So I think I like that 0.5 goal Rennes are getting, and I like under 2.5. I was kind of surprised by Rennes' performance last weekend in Liga. I don't know. I guess I should be surprised by something eventually, but I I don't really know how I feel necessarily about backing Rennes. They feel like they're a little bit of a blind spot for me at this point. So I think for my best bet in France, I will go with that Nantes under 2.25 goals. And then we will figure out what we're doing for our best bet on the ultimate best bet portion of the show, which we've come to. It's the end. I think I made this less than an hour, thank God. But we're gonna have to get into this because I have a lot of work to do tonight before I go to Cowboy Stadium tomorrow. For best bets, I got to figure out what I'm doing for ultimate best bet right now, and I think let's see, when are these matches? I think that's also important to me. Just want to make sure when I'm putting them out there because I got to figure out when I'm going to cut my reel up and put it up. So I guess it's time to do it. So thank you for tuning in always. This is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter. This is the ultimate best bet portion of Betting the Pitch, a weekly or double 2 times a week podcast, 3 times a week, actually, giving you all the betting opportunities across European soccer. For England, for my best bet for the EPL, I went for Brighton Hove Albion, a 3/4 goal underdog. For Cadiz, a 2.5 goal under is what I'm playing in La Liga. In Serie A, Cagliari under 2.5 goals. In the Bundesliga, Wolfsburg under 2.75. And in Ligue 1 in France, I'll go with Nantes under 2.25 goals. For ultimate best bet in this episode, I'm going to go with that Brighton getting 3/4 of a goal from Chelsea. Just not a believer in the Chelsea offense, defense, anything. Staff, organization, club. They've got a lot of problems. Brighton coming off Europe while Chelsea rests at home certainly causes some problems, but I think it gives us a bigger spread here. So take that 3/4 of a goal and maybe get one before kickoff on Sunday. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review. Something I'll read it, or someone will read it if it's relevant to the NFL podcast. I'll have Schnicker read it if it's relevant to college basketball's need for seeds. Big East Ben will do it. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying those episodes. I've seen a lot more people watching. I appreciate that. Trying to grow this into a network that I can get some people to actually edit stuff up. Maybe get some music or something like that. I just haven't really felt the need for that just yet. But Need for Seeds, check that out. College basketball and the NFL edition is also coming out Tuesday nights, college basketball Wednesday nights. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to try to figure out my card for tomorrow. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. It's the best spot to get all my stuff in the same place for a very low fee, low cost each month. And you know what I'm going to do before I even know, or actually as soon as I know, it's there, and you guys can rock with it however you'd like. So thanks for tuning in. Have a nice Friday evening, and go Horns.